The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and I am joined by my good friend who only eats tiny ears of corn. His name is Mike Roth.
I do it just like in Big, where I get it and it goes
Little typewriter style,
just all the way down. Yep.
I like
And
that.
then I get bored and then I eat the whole thing.
Yeah?
But I always do it so someone could see me at least once. Do it.
Feel like a big old giant.
Yep. Look at how big I am.
You don't stand a chance, tiny ear of corn.
Oh, and we're talking about giants.
We
Yeah,
Giants will
that's
be
right.
brought up
Nice.
this episode for sure.
It's going to go full circle. I love this show already.
It's a winner. Let's get started, sir, talking about some movies, with some movies that we have on the marquee this week. And I'm going to get it started with a film I saw. I was very excited to finally get to. It's a film called Minari. Minari comes from director Lee Isaac Chung. It is a South Korean picture. Stars Steven Yeun, who you know from The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. He stars as a man named Jacob. This is a biographical story that's kind of deeply personal to Lee Isaac Chung, the director. It opens with this young Korean family who is arriving in rural Arkansas to their new home, which is a trailer home set on a large open plot of farmland. And immediately we feel the tension between Jacob and his wife Monica, played by Yuri Han. He sees his version of the American dream before him, this huge plot of land. They have their own thing. And he has the dream of building this 50-acre farm where he's going to grow Korean vegetables and sell them. And she has a lot of doubts and reservations about this because she prefers the city. And this is kind of a theme that carries forward through the movie, is they're kind of back and forth over what brought them here and why they should stay here. They also don't really fit in. It's 1980s rural Arkansas. Not a hotbed for Korean immigrants.
No, it's still not.
No. They work during the day at a chicken farm as chicken sexers, where they basically just check chicken butts all day to see which sex it is, separate them out. Pretty monotonous job, but it's what allows them to fund this dream, basically. And then you have their children, David and Anne, who kind of have their own arcs. Anne is the older one. She's the more serious one, played by Noel Cho. She takes care of David, her younger brother. David is the character of this movie, though. David is who this movie goes around, played by Alan S. Kim. They bring in Monica's mother from Korea to help watch the kids while they're doing all this. And Grandma and David have this wild dynamic. He doesn't like her. He's scared of her. He's shy of her. He says she doesn't speak English. She does a lot of the old country things. He says she smells like the old country. He constantly says, "You're not a real grandma," and she takes it as a compliment, like, "Oh, you must say I'm too young to look like a grandma." And it comes out like, "No, you don't do anything. You don't bake cookies. You don't do anything fun." Although the kids do get her hooked on Mountain Dew, they trick her into believing this is some sort of special elixir. So she drinks Mountain Dew, which turns into a hilarious little bit where they also trick her into drinking urine that looks like Mountain Dew.
Ew. That doesn't sound hilarious at all.
She really tries to endear herself to the kids, specifically David, and she's rebuffed constantly. And their dynamic is kind of the best part of the film. And then you have the story of the adults in the farm. And the thing is, this movie is really a film that focuses on complicated relationships between everybody. Obviously, you're on a farm, especially first trying to build a farm out of nothing. There's ebbs and flows, and just like the relationships in this film, nothing is easy. And the farm starts to struggle. And they meet a guy named Paul, played by Will Patton, who's an evangelical farmer who comes to help them because he feels he sees a calling in them and helping them get this farm going. Jacob becomes obsessed with the farm, and he kind of sees it as the way to kind of make his family successful. But it also, his obsession with it kind of might break his family as well, you know, because his wife doesn't see this success.
No, and 50 acres without major equipment.
Yeah.
I've seen in the previews, it does not look like they got cutting edge technology to till this land and stuff like that. So
Not
I'm
a lot.
assuming-
It's kind of just Jacob and Paul out there working at it.
That's a lot of work.
And they're poor, and they can't afford wells and things, and water becomes an issue. And anyways, it's a lot of problems kind of drive him deeper into working the land at all costs, and it kind of drives wedges in the family. But really, like it's a movie that alternates between like dramatic pieces that come right into comedic pieces, and vice versa. A lot of comedy that drives tragedy, and I was enthralled by this movie. And it's just kind of like a character study, really.
It looked really interesting. I was actually going to watch this anyways this week, but instead I got ahead on our new series.
There you go.
So I'm like a month in now.
Sure. So Minari, it's all in Korean. It's interesting. It's nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, all these things, and I really recommend it. I was really impressed by it. There's nothing's gonna blow up in here. There's nothing gonna be going too crazy, but it's a great character piece, and I recommend it. I give Minari 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Nice.
Definitely worth checking out for sure.
Not necessarily do you have to have something blow up in order for it to be good.
Yeah.
I wish more films knew this.
I wish more directors knew that theme. What do you have for us on the marquee, sir?
I have The Courier. This is directed by Dominique Cook, starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Greville Wynn. Gravel Wynn. This is based on actual historical events that happened in the early 60s. Basically, what we have is the MI6. They want to get intel on what's going on in the USSR. But we're in the middle of Cold War, and no one really picks up the telephone anymore. So what do? You have to send someone in. You have to send someone in that doesn't look like a spy, that could get back and forth pretty easily. So they go to the civilian district. They find a businessman, then they just tell him, do your job. Just kind of do your job over in the USSR. And, you don't need to know anything. Just go there. And if anything happens, just kind of go with the flow a little bit.
Be the courier. Bring the packages.
Be the courier. So that brings in Oleg Penkovsky, played by Marab. Nindizzi. Thank you very much. And he is the Russian patriot. He loves Russia, but he sees things going the wrong way. He sees the chairman kind of doing some nefarious things, trying to kind of spark a war.
The escalation of nuclear.
Yeah, and he doesn't like how his country direction is going. And much like a lot of people who are concerned about our world leaders, you do something about it. You're in Russia, though, and people get shot in the head for kind of going against what the head of state says. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a really difficult existence, trying to be quiet, trying to Benedict Cumberbatch not really knowing what he's doing, getting deeper involved, getting more risky, and more happens. I don't want to tell you the rest because you should go see this movie. It is.
It's centered around the Cuban Missile Crisis.
It is, and you have Emily Donovan, who plays excellent MI6 personnel, played by Rachel
Brosnahan.
Thank you very much.
The fabulous Miss Maisel. Yes.
Yeah, and she is fantastic. She has not the stereotype of intelligence. She goes in, she knows what she's doing, she's very much in control, but she kind of has a soft side, which you don't stereotypically get in any movie. And I thought that was really cool. There is action in this where things don't go well. By the way, if they make a movie on any situation, there's going to be ups and downs. It's not going to be easy all the way through. I really enjoyed this film.
Yeah, there's some things in here that I really liked. They set it against the burgeoning Cold War. Mm-hmm. I really liked Nindizzi as Colonel Penkovsky. I thought he was really, really good in this. I thought the strength of the movie, like my favorite parts, were where he and Greville Wynn are just getting to know each other, having meals together, kind of feeling each other out, and Penkovsky is kind of walking him through you know, it's going to be okay. We're going to make this happen. You and I are just men with families who don't want to see this world blow up.
Yeah.
And we're probably both going to get executed if things go wrong here, but we can do this. And I liked because it was just two guys.
Yeah.
And my biggest problem, though, was I thought it lacked a lot of tension throughout a ton of the film. Like, you open the film showing a previous Russian spy getting shot in the head.
Yeah.
And then it just didn't feel like, I've seen a lot of these Cold War spy thrillers, Bridge of Spies, all these movies. Tension is a little more palpable than this one was. I felt like I should be more concerned than in the final 15 minutes, all of a sudden you ratcheted up on me.
And I think they were aware of that because they made a separate tension story with his wife, Sheila, played by Jessie Buckley.
Yeah.
But that didn't really fall through.
didn't play.
And I really didn't like Jessie Buckley's acting in this.
I love Jessie Buckley. I love her, but I
There's
thought
something
that she
about
didn't give
this role that it was
she
just
wasn't
felt wrong.
given a lot to do. That's the problem. Is you
Yeah.
pop in on her every 20 minutes, and she's like, "Where have you been?"
Yeah.
Like, all right, check you out. Be back in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I like Cumberbatch, and I like the acting. I think it was fine for the most part. I just felt like this needed more tension to really lock me into a Cold War true spy thriller.
Yeah.
And the last 15 minutes, there was some stuff going on, but I wanted more throughout the runtime of this movie.
There was one incident in the last 15 minutes that I was like, that wouldn't happen. I wish you didn't do that because I was into it up to that point. But,
I hear you. I know of what you speak of, I think.
But besides that, I really did enjoy this film.
All right. What did you end up giving The Courier?
I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah. I gave it 3 out of 5. I think it's enjoyable enough. Benedict Cumberbatch is always good.
Yeah.
He can't be bad.
Yeah.
So that's worth it.
He took a lot of abuse to make this.
Yeah,
He
he
started
did.
off kind of chubby, and then he looked like we should have called the hospital.
Shaved his head. No weirdos do that.
Should have called the hospital from the theater, just like, have you seen Cumberbatch? He's not looking well.
Let's move ahead, sir, to our streaming spotlight. And this is a film that has gone through a great journey. In 2017, we got Justice League, which was put together by Joss Whedon. Zack Snyder left the project. Joss Whedon cut a version of Justice League that wasn't really well received. And then the internet, fueled by Zack Snyder himself, started clamoring for release the Snyder cut. There is a better cut of this film, I promise you. And so here we are in 2021. We get the Snyder cut. Checks in at 4 hours, which is nearly double the length of Joss Whedon's. And it's hoping to rectify the Whedon cut. It's a very different film here. I mean, obviously, you're able to add a lot more backstory to characters, introduce new characters when you add basically another movie on top of what you already had. But it's not just that. He also changes the tone, a lot of the look of both the characters and the film itself, changing colors, changing the soundtrack. One of my main complaints about the original was the character of Steppenwolf, who was the villain in that movie. A, looked terrible. B, was never fully fleshed out so that if you didn't know Steppenwolf, you would think that he was like a Thanos-level villain. And in this movie, they kind of rectified that. Yeah, he's kind of a lackey. Thanos is like third guy in a chain. And I like that they kind of put him in his context of like, he's not the guy that everyone's terrified of.
He's kind of like Thanos' lackeys, super strong. Every single one of them you should be scared of.
Right.
Not the worst.
He's an underboss.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cosmetic changes. We also introduced the characters of Darkseid, who is our big bad guy, and Desaad, his second in command, I guess. A lot of the underserved characters from the first film, like Cyborg and Flash, are given a little more. They're a little better used. You get to see, Cyborg's character was just kind of dropped in. You actually get to see him before he was Cyborg in this film, which is nice.
But I don't think they really added much to the story. It seemed like they just repeated the same stuff that you already knew. So, you had more Cyborg time, but they didn't add really any more to Cyborg.
They added more to Flash. You also get to meet his love interest, which will be paying off in the Flash movie that's coming out.
Is he coming? Because most of these actors are not coming back.
Yeah, it is because they just recast who's playing his dad. It's not Billy Crudup anymore. I can't remember who they just announced today was playing his dad.
I just find it really silly because Warner Brothers announced how they would love to start doing TV. It's like, you have a very popular TV show called The Flash.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
I like they removed a lot of Joss Whedon's hokey one-liners that I really hated from the original. Replaced that. You also replaced, this was the best part of this though. They removed that horrible, hokey Superman opening from the original where they open on a cell phone video of CGI, no mustache Superman smiling like, "Hi, kids."
Yeah.
That's gone, thankfully, because I thought that just stood out as terrible. There's still a lot of rough CGI moments in here, though.
Yeah.
A lot of rough CGI throughout here. I'm curious what you thought of Justice League.
I thought it was more coherent than I was expecting. The last Zack Snyder film was, I thought was hot garbage. It was when Batman and Superman became best friends because their mothers had the same name.
Yep.
And this one kind of made more sense, but I feel like it was over repetitious. It's you had the Cyborg story, which they extended, and you got to see what he looked like before Cyborg and stuff, but they really never progressed much on his story. You had the Flash story, again, extended, but it was kind of filled with gobbledygook, like his dad being really ashamed that he's going to be a lawyer. And I thought that was really odd, and I liked that whole scene with his girlfriend, but really don't explain much of it. Most of this movie, about an hour and a half, is nothing but fighting scenes. And for a 4-hour movie, that is epic. But epic things should happen. We've seen epics, and you feel like you go on a major journey, and you get to know a lot of people, but really nothing happens in this except for a lot of fighting. You get introduced to characters that were done in the 2-hour film, but you have to do 4 hours of it, more than 4 hours of it.
You know where a lot of this 4-hour runtime came, though, was an egregious amount of slow motion. If you know it's a Zack Snyder film when it opens with slow motion immediately and everything. This is my complaint. This is like, I don't think Zack Snyder's a good filmmaker. I've been saying this for years and years. I think
trailers.
I think he cuts great trailers. He's a great visual artist, but he cannot convey emotion. He knows nothing about nuance in characters. And so everything, and the only way he knows how to convey emotion out of characters is to slow everything down. We zoom in on their anguished faces and we play orchestrals underneath. I said that about a movie we reviewed last week. Like, just putting orchestrals in slow-mo doesn't mean it's dramatic. And for him, there's an old adage that if everything is dramatic, nothing is dramatic.
Yeah.
And that's what this film felt like to me, was 4 hours of everything is super dramatic and everything is slow motion, and you can't convey the same level of dramatic intent of literally a janitor dropping a mop has given the same gravity as one of your heroes dying.
Yeah.
They both get the same level of super slow-mo and music underneath.
And you mentioned that with Superman, that's another thing they keep extending. They keep on bringing back how much he's missing him by flashing to Lois Lane and his mother, but they're not doing anything different. They're just sad about the same thing, and nothing progresses, but the scenes are really long. Another thing he could have just taken out entirely. This proves he's narcissistic. He wants to rub it into people's faces that he could have made this great. This is a great movie, and everybody's wrong about him. How dare you be wrong? And he kind of uses his fans to force the companies to make it rub him in the face. And he proves that with his last 2 teaser trailers of movies that are never going to be made.
Right. That's not.
And it's like, that's not cool. The fans brought you back. Be cool to the fans. Don't say, look what you're missing. Why don't you call Warner Brothers right now and make them make these movies?
He's empowered now. Here's my thing, is comparing this to an incredibly flawed film that was the 2017 version is kind of telling a false narrative. You need to judge this on its own, because I think the first film was atrocious.
Yeah.
I think this is a better film. I think I enjoyed this film quite a bit more. It's still a very, very flawed film, and it is very much a Snyder film because he's a sledgehammer when you need a toolbox full of tools to tell a story.
Yeah.
He's just a sledgehammer, and that's the only tool he has.
And he's very proud about it.
He just swings it no matter what you need. And it's the ridiculous runtime is kind of gratuitous with how much he wastes time and how he has to tell a story. to my point, I think that the epilogue just needed to be cut right out of this movie. The epilogue in this film, that was the last half hour, was just dumb.
Yeah.
And it stood out as just being just stupid and unrelated to the story that we'd sat through. And so, I don't know. There's parts of it that I enjoyed. There's parts of it that I really did not enjoy. I think somewhere in here, there is a really good Justice League film. I can feel it. I had fun in parts in here. But I'm not clamoring for either one of these filmmakers, Whedon or Snyder, to make any more of these.
I think it's fine. But it really needs to be rewritten by someone who needs to write, who knows how to write.
That's always been Snyder's issue, though.
Really,
he won't let that happen.
As much as they hate Marvel and they're like, we're going to do everything different than Marvel while doing the same things as Marvel, they really need to flesh out Cyborg in a real movie. Same thing with Flash.
But that's always been our complaint with what they're doing is they're doing the opposite. Instead of introducing characters and then adding them to the universe, they're adding it for the universe and then hoping to introduce them afterwards, which is backwards. It doesn't make any sense.
And he didn't even need to do that with Flash.
No,
you have already a story that's going on right now. It's still going on.
Absolutely. Curious what you gave Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I give it a 2. I think they did some things better, but overall, it's not worth 4 hours. And if it wasn't for a fast forward button, I'd probably give it a lower score.
I enjoyed it quite a bit more, probably twice double what I enjoyed the first one. And so I give this film 3 stars. I did enjoy a lot about this movie. There was bits of this movie that was definitely a Justice League movie that I wanted. I really hated the original. Rewatched it recently. It only enforced how terrible that is to me. And I would cut the epilogue out. I will rewatch this movie. I will not watch the epilogue because it makes no sense. It doesn't matter to the story. But there's moments in here that I really had fun with.
I think my score already says you're not going to rewatch this, and not having it be canon doesn't make it even something that I'm going to watch for research.
Poor DC. Poor DC. All right, sir. Let's move on to our new segment that we're going to be doing for the short amount of time here. Leading up to the Oscars, we have been looking at films that have won Best Picture in the past that we disagree.
Yeah.
We think the wrong film was honored with the statue, and we are doing a segment we're calling our movie throwback, nearly Best Picture. And you picked the film for this week. What do we have?
So 1956, Around the World in 80 Days, over 3-hour film again, won Best Picture. But that year, also Giant came out. There was also a bunch of other good movies. But Giant, directed by George Stevens, starring Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, James Dean as Jet Rank. This was James Dean's last movie. This is an epic film about Texas ranchers, and it goes over 2 generations. And this is a 3.5-hour movie, much shorter than the movie we're just talking about. And they did so much more. And they keep you on the edge of the seat the entire time. This is a great drama where you really get to know each person and care for who each person is. I really enjoy this. In comparison to Around the World in 80 Days, it is a 3-hour family trip, where you're watching slideshows of what happens in this beautiful country.
Now, to be fair, when Around the World in 80 Days came out, I mean, this was like the Titanic of its time. It was the largest budget, biggest production ever. It was a huge thing when this movie came out. It introduced a lot of things. We'd never gotten cameos in movies before.
True.
We're introducing cameos. It kind of set the stage for what a lot of pictures, epic, these big travel pictures would come to be.
Yeah.
I mean, James Cameron kind of borrows a lot of what he learned from Around the World in 80 Days.
Okay.
I think it still looks great.
It looks great.
But I agree with you. I think Giant is the better film. And it holds up better. And the story they tell about these real people carrying pain and how people hurt each other and carry that pain and how it travels through generations. And James Dean and Rock Hudson specifically are both incredible in this movie.
Now, that year, 10 Commandments was also...
It was.
Do you think 10 Commandments was a worse film than Around the World in 80 Days?
I think 10 Commandments has its place in history. I don't think it's a great film.
Really? Okay.
I've watched it so many times on Easter.
Yeah, it's an every year thing. Yep.
Yeah, it's a flawed movie.
It's long.
It's long too.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is they all are. They were just getting into this, like, hey, how many reels can we put together in a movie? This is noted because James Dean died the week after he finished rapping on this film. He was posthumously nominated.
And he did a fantastic job. He plays the evil villain, but really he's just a guy.
I think there's a lot of bad people. Rock Hudson isn't a likable guy in this movie either.
No, true.
You know, there's a lot of people that are pretty nefarious in this film and greedy and hateful and spiteful and racist.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Rock Hudson doesn't like that his grandchild does not look like him.
But Rock Hudson redeems himself for all the people who have seen this. You could hear me say that. Everybody else, you know.
Now, George Stevens did win Best Director for this film, which is something.
He deserves it.
Yeah. A good year for movies. But I agree, Giant is the superior film. Looking back, it should have won Best Picture. I concur with you, sir. I can't wait to talk about the upcoming. There's so many as we go through these.
Yeah.
And I'm going through like, oh, this one and this one. And 2020 hindsight, you know, some movies just don't fare as well in the cold light of day 30 years later.
Yeah.
But, boy, there's some egregious ones that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Sir, let's take a look ahead, though, at what is coming soon, the weekend of April 2nd. We have a few films. Over on Netflix, there's a film called Concrete Cowboy, starring Idris Elba, a drama about a young man discovering the world of urban horseback riding in Philadelphia. This is based on actual events. We also have a film called Just Say Yes, which is a rom-com from the Netherlands. A film called Sky High, which is a Spanish crime thriller about a group of young criminals. In theaters, we are going to have a film called The Unholy. This is a horror film starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
I'm looking forward to
about
it.
A young deaf girl who's touched by the Virgin Mary and has healing powers, but did she unlock something more nefarious?
This looks actually pretty creepy.
It does. Yeah. And we also have a film called Every Breath You Take, a thriller starring Casey Affleck, Sam Claflin, and Michelle Monaghan. Those are all the films that will be coming your way the weekend of April 2nd. Before we move any further, though, we want to thank our sponsor. Look, we were there last week, live, talking to our good buddy Tom. Marcus Theater's Palace Cinema right here in Sun Prairie. We thank you for sponsoring this program, opening the doors, had some fun there. And we encourage you, hey, movie season is upon us. You know, it's normally the end of March would be a rough time, but there's some movies coming out soon that I'm very much looking forward to. And we thank the Palace for always being a part of this program. Sir, real quickly.
Yes.
You watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, correct?
No.
Oh, Michael.
Oh,
Michael.
We are going to have to talk about that next week.
We're going to talk about a couple episodes of that.
All right,
it just
sweet.
dawned on me that came out, and I'm curious what you thought about it. So stay tuned next week for Mike's thoughts on that.
I bet that's killing you. You want to talk about it.
I want to talk about it. Also next week, we have a few movies. We have Nobody, which is the film set in what looks like a John Wick universe, starring Bob Odenkirk, the most unlikely action hero.
Yeah. What about
Saul?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Better Call Saul.
Better
That's
Call
what
Saul.
it is.
Thank you. Why not? We also have a couple of big guys going at it back and forth. Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out, and I am very excited for this.
I'm stoked. I'm going to have to rewatch all those.
Maybe
the first Godzilla and King Kong.
I just watched Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters this past week. I think I'm ready.
All right, cool.
I'm good to go. I still have my same complaints with the last Godzilla movie.
Yeah, that was bad.
There's still some things in there I don't care for, but
No.
I've laid a bet on who I think is going to win this battle between the two of them.
No.
And we'll see what happens.
I get in on that.
I dropped $20,000 on it. I don't know.
Sure, all right, not that much.
Oh, all right. Really hope I win. We also, next week, we are going to dig into another in our movie throwback series of nearly Best Picture films, and it is one that I hope you are excited for. Some of these I'm kind of curious whether we agree or disagree on, and that makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, last year we kind of did something similar where we watched best of, and we've never seen them before.
Yes.
So this year we're going a little deeper. I'm curious about next year already.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who knows? Send in your thoughts. If you want to keep in contact with us and tell us what you want to see from a series out of us, you can find us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Real Reviews TV on all those things, and let us know what you would like to see us talk about for our next series. But until next week, when we meet you again, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.